Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Today we are speaking from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, 3rd chapter, 41st verse onwards. तप्त हेम समकांति प्रकांड शरीर नव मेघ जिनी कंठ ध्वनि ये गंभीर. Translation. The luster of his expansive body resembles molten gold. The deep sound of his voice conquers the thundering of newly wedded assembled clouds. 42nd. दैरांग विस्तारे यही अपाने रहात चारी हस्त है महापुरुष विख्यात. One who measures 2 cubits in height and in breadth by his own hand is celebrated as a great personality. न्यागोद परिमंडल है तानर नाम न्यागोद परिमंडल तनु चैतन्य गुरु नाम. Such a person is called Nyagrad Parimandal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personifies all good qualities as the body of a Nyagrad Parimandal. Purport: no one other than the Supreme Lord Himself, who has engaged the conditioned souls by His own illusory energy, can possess this bodily features. These features certainly indicate an incarnation of Vishnu and no one else. Ayanu Lambeta Bhaja Kamala Lochana Tilakura Jini Nacha Sudhanshu Vadana. His arms are long enough to reach his knees. His eyes are just like lotus flowers. His nose is like a sesame flower. And his face is as beautiful as the moon. Shant Danta Krishna Bhakti Nisht Prana Parayan Bhakta Vatsal Sushila Sarva Bhute Sam. He is peaceful, affectionate, self-controlled, and fully devoted to the transcendental service of the Lord Shri Krishna. He is affectionate towards his devotees, he is gentle, and he is equally disposed towards all living beings. Chandanera Angada Bala, Chandana Bhushan, Nritya Kale Pari, Karena Krishna Sankirtan. He is decorated with sandalwood, bangles and armlets, and anointed with the pulp of sandalwood. He especially wears these decorations to dance in Sri Krishna Sankirtan. A Sabaguna Nana Muni Vaishampayan Sahasra Nam Kaila Tanar Nam Ganam. Recording all these qualities of Lord Chaitanya, the Lord Shri, the sage Vaishampayan includes his name in Vishnu Sahasranam. Dui Lila Chaitanya Adi Arashesh Dui Lilaya Chari Chari Nam Vishesh. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya have two divisions, the early pastimes Adi Lila and the later pastimes Shesh Lila. He has 4 names in each of these two Lilas. And final word 49th verse for the day. Suvarna Varno Himango Varangas Chandan Angadi Sanyas Krich Chamah Shanto Nisht Shanti Parayana. Suvarna Varno Himango Suvarna Varno Himango Varnangas Chandan Angadi Sanyas Krich Chamah Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. Suvarna Varno Himango Varnangas Chandangadi Sanyasa Krich Chamah Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. Yes.
Suvarna Varno Himango
Suvarna Varno Himango
Chandanangadi
Varnangas Chandanangadi
Sanyas Krishamasanto
Sanyasa Krich Chamah Shanto
Nistha Santi Parayana
Nishta Shanti Parayana. Suvarna
Suvarna
of gold,
of gold
Varna
Varna
having the color,
having the color
Hemanga
Hemangaha
whose body was like molten gold,
whose body was like molten gold
Varangaha
Parangaha
having a most beautiful body,
having the most beautiful body
Chandan Angadi
Chandan Angadi
whose body was smeared with sandalwood,
whose body was smeared sandalwood
Sanyasakrit
Sanyasakrit
practicing the renounced order of life,
practicing the renounced order of life
Samaha equipoise,
Sama
equipoise,
equipoise
Shantaha
Shantaha
peaceful,
peaceful
Nishtha
Nishtha
devotion,
devotion
Shanti
Shanti
and of peace,
and of peace
Parayanaha
Parayanaha
the highest resort. the highest resort.
The highest resort.
Translation per Prabhupada. In his early pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful and his body smeared with the pulp of sandalwood. Seems like molten gold. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyas order and is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. Purport. This is a verse from Mahabharata, Dan Dharma Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra. In his commentary in Vishnu Sahasranam called the Nama Sudha, Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan, commenting upon this verse, asserts that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the evidence of the Upanishads. He explains that Suvarna Varnaha means a golden complexion. He also quotes the Vedic injunction Yada Pashya Pashyate Rukma Varnam Kartanam Isham Purusham Brahma Yonin. Mukunda Upanishad, 3rd canto, 1st chapter, 3rd verse. Rukma Varnam Kartanam Isham refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as having a complexion, the color of molten gold. Purusham means the Supreme Lord, and Brahma Yonim indicates that he is also the Supreme Brahman. This evidence too proves that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Another meaning of the description of the Lord as having a golden hue is that Lord Chaitanya's personality is as fascinating as gold is attractive. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan has explained the word Varnan means exquisitely beautiful. Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas, leaving aside his householder life to preach his mission. He is the equanimity in different senses. First, he describes the confidential truth of the personality of Godhead, and second, he satisfies everyone by knowledge and attachment to Krishna. He is peaceful because he renounces all topics not related to the service of Krishna. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan has explained the word Nishtha indicates he is being rigidly fixed in chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya subdued all disturbing opponents of devotional service, especially the monists who are actually averse to the personal feature of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. First of all, thank you very much for coming and giving your precious time and allowing me to serve in the mission of Guru and Gauranga. So, in today's verses, there are some points which are very highlighted. No one other than the Supreme Lord Himself, who has engaged the conditioned souls by His own illusory energy, can possess these bodily features. These features certainly indicate an incarnation of Vishnu and no one else. And recording all qualities of Lord Chaitanya, sage Vaishampayan included his name in Vishnu Sahasranam. And Sri Vidyabhushan, commenting upon this verse, asserts that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, according to the evidence of the Upanishads. And the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya have two divisions, the early pastimes Adi Lila and the later pastimes Shesh Lila. And in his earlier pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion, his limbs are beautiful, his body is smeared with the pulp of sandalwood, seems like molten gold. Incidentally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in this planet only for 48 years. So, first 48 years are his Adi Lila. First of those 24 years are his Adi Lila. In his later pastimes, the remaining 24 years, he accepts the sannyas order and he is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist devotees. Now, 24 is supposed to be the prime of the age. In teenage, we are still developing, but in early 20s, we are fully developed and we are in the prime of our health and youth and everything. So, this comes as a very strange thing, a person taking sannyas. And at the age of 24, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had lost his father and elder brother, and he was taking care of his mother who loved him dearly. And he was also married, and wife also loved him very dearly, and he also loved his family very much. So, and his knowledge and wisdom was unparalleled. And if we recount his pastimes, at the age of 24, there was nobody who could ever debate with him in terms of knowledge and power. We are not even debating. He was very powerful, very good in everything, whatever he did. And people were actually scared to even debate with him. And if anybody who thought that he has knowledge and he was expert, acharya or guru, and would have a debate with him, and he will just defeat them just like that. So at that time, anybody would not even think of sannyas, but he took sannyas at the age of 24. So this was the starting point. So and this the point where we realize, and Shri Prabhupada explains in Adi Lila of this, he is explaining that these Brahman, Gopal Chapal, went to Srivas Thakur and took shelter of his lotus feet. And by Srivas Thakur mercy, he was freed from all sinful reactions. So there was one person by the name Gopal Chapal, and he was, as the name suggests, he was quite mischievous. And he went to Srivas Thakur's house and he was actually disturbing him. And I was just going through his pastime. So he put nonsensical things outside his door and including a glass of wine outside his door. And Srivas Thakur, he was actually flooded with many devotees coming to his place. So then he saw that who was done this, but jokingly he said, okay, actually I pray to Goddess Bhavani, so you need not come to me. So thereby he actually saved Gopal Chapal from being punished by others. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very badly offended. And he said that, that since he has offended my devotee, he will be punished. And later on he developed leprosy and his body was deteriorating and he was just getting punished badly. So he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he says, actually I'm similar to your uncle, maternal uncle. So why didn't you take care of me? And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very angry. He said, you have insulted my devotee and you have hurt him. So not in this lifetime, not even in 11 of lifetimes. He said and walked away. But Gopal Chapal, his senses prevailed and then he kept on persisting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized, okay, he sincerely means that he is actually the guilty person. So he says, okay, I don't think I'll like to forgive you, but if you ask for mercy from Srivas Thakur, then there's hope for you. So Gopal Chapal went there and Srivas Thakur being a devotee, he excused him. So then he recovered his complexion and he became healthy again. But at that time, there was another Brahmin who wanted to see this Kirtan performance Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and these are very secret pastimes, so not everybody could come there. So he realized that the door was closed and he could not enter the hall. So he returned home with an unhappy mind. But the next day he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Lord of the bank of the Ganges and spoke to him. And this Brahmin was very hot tempered and he was very expert in talking harshly and cursing others. Like at the drop of a hat, he would just start insulting anybody. So he is wearing this sacred thread and then he tear it off and declared, now I shall curse you, for your behavior has greatly aggrieved me. The Brahman cursed the Lord, you shall be bereft of all material happiness. When the Lord heard this, he felt great jubilation and within himself. And Sri Prabhupada mentions in the purport that any faithful person who hears of this Brahman cursing Lord Chaitanya is delivered from all Brahminical curses. Now, if you look at it, this Brahman is cursing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, he could not curse if it was not cursing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's wish. But if you look at it, what is the whimsical thing? You go and you want to see somebody performing dance and kirtans, and if that person is not allowing you, or the door is closed and you can't even go, that person not even aware of you, and then you are straight away cursing. So that was his thing, what he had done. And another point, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one reason was that he was cursed, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also mentioned in Chaitanya Lalita, Adi Lila, that unless people accept me, they will all be destroyed. Because he is 24 years of age and He can debate and he can defeat everybody. So there are many people who are afraid of him. Basically, how would you react to a person who you are arguing with and he defeats you on all the counts, whatever you think? Most of the people will be scared, but many people will be actually feeling insulted, and many people actually still run away. So, if the idea is to preach, and if people are running away from you scared, and they don't seem to respect you because of your age and complexion and power, so what do you do? So that's the reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought that unless people accept me, they will all be destroyed. Because he is God who's come as a devotee, and these people will be committing Vaishnava Aparadh, and if they are committing Vaishnava Aparadh, so they will be destroyed. So thus the merciful Lord accepted sannyas order. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or Lord Krishna's name, one is liberated and goes back home, back to Godhead. This Krishna consciousness must be achieved through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One cannot be complete in Krishna consciousness unless he accepts Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates as the only means for success. It is because of these considerations that the Lord accepted sannyas. For thus people would offer him respect and very quickly come to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Since Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, inaugurated the Krishna consciousness movement, without his mercy, one cannot be elevated to a transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas so that even a foolish person who accepted him as an ordinary sannyasi would offer him respect. Now, those who are familiar with Indian culture will realize that if you see whether you are devotee or not, but if you see a person dressed like a sannyasi and who appears like sannyasi, we have a tendency to respect that person. So, keeping this thought process in mind, Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. And even a foolish person who accepts him as an ordinary sannyasi would offer him respect, for this would help diminish his material distresses and ultimately liberate him from material clutches. Now, there is another pastime in which Ajamil, a person who was in 80 years of age and is materially attached, he was just thinking of Narayan when he saw death coming. And by Narayan, he did not mean Lord Narayan, but he meant his youngest son. And even with that accidental uttering of Narayan, he was liberated. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also thinking that if even if they don't respect me as God or God's incarnation or as a devotee, but at least looking at me just like a sannyasi, they'll think of me as a sannyasi and at least they'll not be offensive. So this will be actually helping them advance in spiritual consciousness. So Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati points out in this connection that Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is combined form of Sri Radha and Sri Krishna. Mahaprabhu Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. Therefore, when fools considered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be an ordinary human being and thus treated him disrespectfully, the merciful Lord, in order to deliver these offenders, accepted sannyas so that they would accept him, offer him obeisances, and accept him as sannyasi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas to bestow his great mercy on people in general who cannot appreciate him as Radha and Krishna themselves. Thus the Lord Thus the Lord accepted the sannyas order of life, and after full consideration, there was no need for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to accept sannyas, for he himself God, and has therefore nothing to do with material bodily concept of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not identify himself with any of these 8 varnas and ashrams, namely Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanprastha and Sannyas. He identified himself as a supreme spirit. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or for that matter any pure devotee, never identifies with these social and spiritual divisions of life. For a devotee is always transcendental to these different gradations of society. Nevertheless, Lord Chaitanya decided to accept sannyas on the grounds that when he became sannyasi, everyone would show him respect, and in that way he favored. Although there was actually no need for him to accept sannyas, he did so benefit of those who might think of him as ordinary human being. The main purpose of his accepting sannyas was to deliver Mayavadi sannyasis. This will be evident later on. Now, in previous life, an avatar of Lord Krishna himself, also, now we may think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God. We know because Srila Prabhupada has explained that to us and given proof also, so that we know for sure that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. But those people living around and seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every day would think of him, many of them would think of him as ordinary human being, and that's why he had to take sannyas. Now, question comes to mind that if he appears very different and is so beautiful, wonderful, so why would not people accept him as incarnation of Krishna? So, if you look at during avatar of Krishna himself, Mahabharata battle happened because nobody was willing to recognize or accept Krishna as Krishna's God. And Arjun just asked to see this Virat Swarup, but when Virat Swarup was showed in Kauravas or Dhritarashtra's assembly, that time also nobody was willing to accept him as God. So when Krishna himself comes, people are not willing to accept. So how do you think that they will accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So that's the reason why he took sannyas. That's another reason. So the Kutarikas, Nindakas, Pashandis, and other Paduyas all avoided the benefit of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So basically, the simple people would accept his sannyas order and respect, but others would still be a bit averse. So that was one of the reasons. All over the benefit of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement of developing love of Godhead. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt compassion for them. Now, if a person is rejecting us, criticizing us, insulting us, we have a tendency to get upset and get angry. But all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt was compassion for them. And it is for this reason that he decided to accept the sannyas order. For by seeing him as sannyasi, they would offer him respects. The sannyas order is still respected in India. Indeed, the very dress of a sannyasi still commands respect from Indian public. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts sannyas to facilitate preaching his devotional cult, although otherwise he had no need to accept fourth order of spiritual life. And at the end of the month in the year of January 1432, AD 1510, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts sannyas order from Keshav Bharati, who belonged to Shankar Sampradaya. And furthermore, Lord Chaitanya is also the master of all wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, because he is Sri Krishna himself. He is described as Purn or complete. In the feature of Lord Chaitanya, Lord is an ideal renouncer. So this is another quality which he displayed. Just as Sri Ram was an ideal king, Lord Chaitanya accepted the order of sannyas and exemplified exceedingly wonderful principles in his own life. No one can compare to him in the order of sannyas. Although in Kali Yuga, acceptance of the sannyas order is generally forbidden, Lord Chaitanya accepted it because he is complete in renunciation. Others cannot imitate him but can only follow in his footsteps as far as possible. Those who are unfit for this order of life are strictly forbidden by injunctions of the Shastras to accept it. Lord Chaitanya, however, is complete in renunciation as well as all other opulences. Therefore, he is the highest principle of absolute truth. And as Srila Prabhupada has worded it nicely in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 25th verse, Yad Yad Acharti Shreshta, Tad Tad Evantaro Jana, Sa Yat Pramamin Kurute, Lokas Tad Anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So people in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he like himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in this way is called Acharya or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principle of Shastra, scriptures, to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar others are considered as standard textbooks to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader of teaching should be based on principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules, as they are practiced by general teachers. The great Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and in that way, the progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father, and the school teacher all are considered to be natural leaders of innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral scriptural codes. So, following the parampara and tradition, we should also behave properly in an exemplary manner so that others are inspired to follow in the footsteps of great devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any questions or any comments? Yes, Paul.
About what Satan has taken sannyas. You explained quite well recently. But his close associates didn't take sannyas, only like some, most of them know. Why is it so?
I didn't get the last
The
sentence.
most close associates of Lord Chaitanya did not take sannyas.
Yes.
Why it is so?
I think it was mentioned, but I think in my verbal barrage that was skipped. The thing is that in the present age of Kali, nobody is allowed to follow sannyas order because it's a strict order of life, and it is actually forbidden by shastras. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God Himself in the devotee's mood. So to set example, he took sannyas, and he did not take sannyas because he needed sannyas. He needed because he is a very compassionate personality. So he did it for the benefit of others, and he did at the cost of his mother and wife, who loved him very dearly and who are totally dependent on him. And in fact, there is one place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions to Shachi Mata that please never think that I will be ever separate. I will not be visible to you, but I will always be there with you. And there are many pastimes where Shachi Mata, in her sorrows, would be cooking prasadam for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And she will just close her eyes and he will just come and eat. And she would think that, okay, I must be dreaming, and she would be cooking again. And he would again come and eat without her being aware. So, but he gave her word and he stick to that, that though he was invisible, he would still come and he was always consciously with his mother. And so was he was taking care of his wife also. But he was a sannyasi for others' sake. And since it is forbidden by Shastra, so his closest associate could not take. In fact, Nityanand Prabhu broke his sannyasi danda also because he did not want to take sannyas. So everybody around him, they did not want him to take sannyas. But he had to take because he realized that people were insulting him. They were not taking him seriously and insulting him not because he was not taking any insult personally, but he realized that he is representing a devotee, and devotee is basically representative of God and a Vaishnava. And if they are doing it to me, I'll not feel anything. But there are other devotees who they will be insulting, and then definitely they'll be getting destroyed because they will go to lower and lower species of life. So that is the reason he was taking sannyas. But all other devotees, though they appear like grahasthas and other similar varnas, but the thing is, they were all very advanced devotees. They were all associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was actually, if you study all these Panchatattva and everybody, they are his associates who are coming directly from Golok Vrindavan. So they are part of his pastimes, and he wanted these Leelas to be performed. That is the reason he said, I'll become sannyasi, but you all remain. So basically, otherwise, if all of his associates, as you rightly pointed out, became sannyasis, then there are many people who will think, no, I cannot follow this strict life of a sannyas order. So I'll not be able to perform. So that means basically, if I'm not able to achieve the zenith of my life or perfection of being a sannyasi, so what's the point in being going to devotional life? Because if you realize, let's take example of education. If I know that I'm not qualified enough to clear and pass out from university, so then I'll say, why go for education in the first place? To avoid that, he wanted all his associates to remain non-sannyasis. So he would be a sannyasi giving order, and if somebody wants to take sannyas, that's a different issue altogether. But personally, he only took sannyas to give an example that anybody and everybody can perfect their lives in whatever one ashram they are in. That was the reason. But he did not want his associates to take sannyas. It was forbidden by scriptures, and basically who's the root point for all the scriptures is Krishna himself. And he has particular basis because he knows that what's the point of giving a person a service when that person is not even capable of doing that, has no inclination whatsoever. That can be also taken as an excuse. Okay, since being a sannyasi is very difficult, so why go for devotion? To avoid that point also, his associates were not to take. All of his associates wanted to go, and Nityananda Prabhu and everybody else, they said, we'll go with you only. But he told them, no, nobody comes with me. As a sannyasi, I'll go alone. They did not want to leave him, even though he was sannyasi. So he knew that if my associates are so associated to me, what about others who are not even thinking about devotional life right now? So he was an example, and example has to sacrifice. So he was making those sacrifices. But his associates, he wanted them to remain as they are. So when people are inspired that, okay, even as a householder, even as a brahmachari, we can advance in devotional life. That was the reason. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I believe, yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
I have a comment
Yes, Prabhu.
on this subject. But Lord Chaitanya had also sannyas associated, like Rupa and Sanatana and all the six Goswamis and Swarup Damodar and Paramananda Puri and all this. So he had a group of sannyasis also.
Yeah, I said that, not all.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it what the answer.
Yeah.
Why did it all take?
Yes, as Prabhu rightly mentioned that his six Goswami associates were also sannyasis. But the thing is that all of them were successful in their own lives, and they were quite intelligent and quite talented. And of course, they were all advanced devotees. So when they took sannyas order, they took out of their free will. It's not that they were trying to prove something to someone. It was their natural inclination or natural tendency. That's the reason they were taking sannyas. But Shastra still forbid others to take sannyas, because please don't take that responsibility which you cannot follow. Because if you want to take devotional life, please take, and whatever you advance, as Arjun was answered by Krishna, that even if you are falling at some point of time, still you can carry that forward. But if you are taking an artificial vow to become a sannyasi and then you fall down, then falling down is really serious. We have seen even within our movement, there are many sannyasis who have fallen down. The problem is that when a person falls down, it's not he only falling down, but the chain reaction which it triggers to the person who are watching him or the ones who are following him. So that's the reason we have to be very, very cautious about this sannyasa. Is there any other question?
I have a comment.
Yes.
About Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar was the closest associate of Chaitanya.
Yes.
From Anandalaya and Swarup Damodar and
Yes.
these 3.5, his closest associates.
Yes.
So Swarup Damodar, he went to sannyas initiation ceremony, but then before the ceremony ended, he ran away from there. But I guess he's still considered a sannyasi.
Yeah, that's why we have to be very careful what we say, because generally it's walk the talk. And when I was in Bombay, so one of my counselor, Madan Prabhu, mentioned that we have to be very cautious when we are putting tilak. Then we are no longer ourselves. We are representing Krishna. And whatever we do, whatever we say, people are looking at us. And supposing I am going out dressed like this, and if I have a fight with somebody else, nobody will comment on the other person, but they will say what sort of person he is. He is supposed to set standards, and he is himself fighting with people. So that's the reason we have to be very, very cautious. And sannyas is like the ultimate in this parampara to take a vow. So it's better whatever vow we take, we actually try to do, sincerely follow that. Not for the show off, we take something and then we fall down. Because we knew, in our hearts, we knew that we are not capable of that. So basically, we should do what we are capable of. Any other question? And yes, as we were mentioning that it's our responsibility. Chaitanya Prabhu and everybody in our parampara sacrifice so much. So the least we can do is to just at least be merciful towards others. Like we have seen others of being merciful towards us, we should be merciful towards others and help in spreading Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. You have a question? Yes.
I have a little question.
Yes,
I'm not sure if it's so important, but from which Sampradaya Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the...
Shankar Sampradaya. And it is one of the lower Sampradayas.
Why he took...
Yeah, basically, as I was going through this, even in there are various Sampradayas. So if he had, he took from one of the lowest Sampradayas to say that actually I'm very fallen soul, I'm not in Mayavadi, but even in that I'm taking from the lowest order. So I'm such a fallen soul. So people say, actually when you are speaking paradoxically, people actually start saying believing the opposite. When you say I'm fallen down, they actually start seeing you what you are. And when he took sannyas from a lower order, the idea was to tell to even Mayavadis that because Mayavadis were all very puffed up and very proud people. So even if he is going for the higher sampradaya, they'll say, oh, he has ego. So he goes from lowest and say, oh, he's so fallen, but now he's become sannyasi, let's order. Basically, his idea of taking sannyas was to attract those people who were actually violent in nature and basically they were antagonistic towards God and devotees. To convince them, he would take anything. So that's the reason if he has to, basically, when a person is bowing down in front of you, it's not that the person has fallen down. Person is giving you respect and he's not actually giving you respect, but the Paramatma within you. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's act of taking sannyas from lower order was like just bowing down, so that he is giving by example that why we have to be humble. And that was the reason his very act of taking sannyas from the lower order was to break the egos of these people that okay, he was always, they knew in their heart that if he says something, he can easily check us out and he can always defeat us in logic or whatever definition we're giving. But despite all this, he is still not challenging us and he is taking from the lowest order sannyas. And idea is to basically he is telling us that I am not as great as you are. So their ego was puffed up, and when you flatter somebody's ego, to put in very simple English, they become favorable to listen to you. Even if you tell a person he is not any good, but you say you are so good. I'll just give an example. Yesterday I was in a swimming hall and I saw one child very beautiful. He was just 11 months old, and I just said, oh, he's so beautiful. And I saw his parents were very happy. They don't know me, and it's typically said about Finnish people that if you are trying to talk to them and if you are going outside in public places, they try not to talk to you. But the minute you start, this was a trick which I was told to my teachers, that if you praise to somebody who's near them, then they get happy. And then they were very friendly with me. And they were in fact joking and everything. So basically idea out here is that when you humble down and when you praise others, they become more favorable. So that's the reason he took from the lowest order sannyas. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, but do you have any question?
No, I was just scratching my head.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Harish.
Hare Krishna. Shri Govinda Prabhu ki jai.